pleased, and it's an honor to have on the show U.S. Senator Ron Johnson from the fine state of Wisconsin, starting out early with us this morning. Senator, good morning to you.
Morning, guys. How you doing?
We're doing great. How's everything going with you?
Wonderful. I think we've got a real opportunity. We have a real responsibility here, and we plan to take advantage of it.
Yeah, we haven't talked since the election. Boy, you're going to have some new faces and some like-minded people around you now.
Yeah, we got some really quality, really intelligent, I think high-integrity new members. And the American people have bestowed responsibility on us. And we certainly intend to take that responsibility with a fair amount of humility and just start looking for those areas of agreement. It's so many times people talk about compromise. What you need to do is find the things you agree on. Mm-hmm. Not ask the other side to violate their principles, don't violate yours, but just find the areas of agreement that we can, for example, reduce regulation, try and make our tax system more competitive. Let's not artificially drive up the cost of power. Do all those things to get our economy moving, because when you have a robust economy, guys, businesses have to compete for labor. That's how you drive up wages in a sustainable fashion.
Senator, let's start with an area where there appears to be a wide amount of bipartisan agreement. That's the Keystone Pipeline and pushing it through. The House already is approved by a huge margin. The Senate scheduled for a vote today, I believe. Will there be 60 votes?
I really don't know. I do want people to realize what a political vote this is. It amazed me that Mary Landrieu, after they announced the vote, went down and said, "Oh, there's no politics involved in this at all." It's 200% pure politics, and so I have no idea. It sounds like the president's going to veto it, even if we pass it. So we're going to have to continue. The public's going to have to continue to put pressure on this administration to finally allow that private sector investment that would create jobs. That is just one of those things that helps keep energy prices low and reasonable, and a competitive advantage for the U.S. economy. So in the end, it's going to take public pressure to get President Obama to finally sign a bill into law. If we can't pass it in this Senate, I'm sure we'll pass it in 2016 or 2015.
And Senator, didn't the State Department's own study say that there would actually be more pollution, more greenhouse gas emissions without the Keystone Pipeline than with the Keystone Pipeline?
Yeah, so what we're doing right now, transporting it by oil and by truck, if you're concerned about greenhouse gases, those methods produce far more greenhouse gases than using a pipeline. And they're probably, although pipelines are not risk-free, probably more dangerous transporting by oil and by truck. So, listen, we transport so much oil by pipeline already. We have thousands of miles of pipeline. We do it safely. We can always continue to improve safety. This is basically an attempt on the part of the left to just shut down oil production. I have no idea why these guys want to regulate us back in the Stone Age, but that's what they're trying to do.
Wow. Washington being the target-rich environment it is right now, let's talk about, just the small fee of $400,000 being paid out to one Mr. Gruber when actually it turns out it's closer to being $2 million. Now the whole thing, it was a deception from the start.
Well, we're seeing even mounting figures in that, more and more millions. A lot of states engaged him or had contracts with him. I don't know how much of that was actually state money or federal money that got granted to the states that then they paid to him. But no, what this instance really shows, what all of his videos, what he says is really demonstrating is really how arrogant the left is. How the left really does believe that the American people are not smart enough to make these decisions, and they are so smart, and then they can actually pass these policies and basically hoodwink the American public. And that's really what Obamacare really was. It was a massive consumer fraud. It was built on a bunch of lies. It was built on a bunch of promises that are not coming true, that have been broken left and right. And so, we are having to deal with this awful law right now that is causing real harm to real people.
And Senator, the President's comments yesterday, Senator Ron Johnson with us, it's Riley and Scott. The President's comments yesterday that he didn't know Gruber, he wasn't in the discussions in crafting the bill, and the follow-up was almost more unbelievable when the President said, hey, every single provision, everything in this bill was clear, transparent, we had big debates over all this stuff. That's absolutely untrue.
Well, wasn't it Nancy Pelosi that said that we've got to pass this bill to find out what's in it? And we've also now a video surfaced to President Obama, I think, at the Brookings Institute, talking about, who would he pick as advisors? And on health care, he said Jonathan Gruber.
Yeah.
So, no, it's just the left continues to lie. They continue to, basically pull the wool over the American people's eyes, because they think they're so smart, and the American public just isn't smart enough to catch up with them.
And I love the fact that a lot of folks in the mainstream media decided they weren't going to cover this one, but it's gotten so big now that they've had to.
You almost have to, and people really need to pay attention, because it's just not on health care where the left relies on the fact that the American people aren't paying attention to the point that they must, to see exactly the harm that big government causes real people. And that's the bottom line. The left they've been so effective at addicting Americans to government. I always say it's a diabolically simple, depressingly effective strategy of theirs of addicting Americans to government. And it's not just a financial addiction, it's also a psychological addiction. But I really ask people, believe what your eyes and ears are telling you about this very dysfunctional place called Washington, D.C., and stop growing it. Quit sending politicians to the federal government, to Washington, D.C., dedicated to growing this dysfunctional place.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson with us here from the great state of Wisconsin. It's Rodgers and Scot on WROK. We're all kind of waiting, I guess, for the president. He has promised he will act. He will order or give these executive orders on immigration. Even, the Washington Post editorial board is saying this is way too far, Mr. President. Please don't do this. Slow down. He appears not to have that in mind. If he goes through with what he has promised, what's the correct response from Republicans in Washington?
Well, first of all, 2 years ago, he claimed in an interview that he did not have the authority to do this, and now all of a sudden he's got the authority. If he does go through this, first of all, people need to understand he will be increasing the incentive for illegal immigration. That's exactly what he did when he deferred action on childhood admissions. We had the flooding of kids from Central America flooding our borders. So he's going to exacerbate the problem. So our reaction ought to be, we better secure the border. That's as the incoming chairman of Homeland Security Governmental Affairs Committee, that is my top priority, is let's pass a border security enforcement bill once and for all. I think that is something that have broad public support. It's something that we must do, not only to solve the illegal immigration problem, but also as an imperative for public health and safety and national security. So if he goes through with this, and it'd be very unwise, very unfortunate if he did, because he just makes the problem worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to make it more difficult to work with Congress. I mean, don't you want to start on a new relationship, trying to figure out things you agree on as opposed to start fighting right off the bat? But if he does this, I think our action should just buckle down and let's finally secure the border.
It sure seems, and we just in our conversation with you over the past few minutes, we've indicated two things where the president is definitely governing against the will of the American people, clearly against the will.
Yes, and he obviously did not hear what the American voters told him on November 4th. It was President Obama said that his policies were on the ballot. I agree with that. His policies were widely repudiated. Let's face it, the American people, pretty loudly, pretty clearly said, we don't like the direction this country is going, and he's just doubling down on those same policies, and he's doubling down on his ruling by presidential fiat and dictate.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson here with us another minute or two. I wanted to quickly hit this debate that's actually a little hotter now that the president stepped in on net neutrality. He's pushing the FCC to implement strongest possible rules on net neutrality. You've been talking about this for a long time, had an op-ed earlier this year with Senator Heller, Senator Ayotte from New Hampshire, about updating the Telecommunications Act, instead making a marketplace more free, less regulation. That's the way to guarantee, or to at least give the best atmosphere for better innovation for customers.
Well, one of the ways the left lies to the American public is what they call their bills, or what they call their proposals, like the Patient Protection Affordable Care Act. And, of course, patients weren't protected because they lost their health care and health care prices going up, or the Employee Free Choice Act. Nothing could be further from the truth. Same thing is true with net neutrality. What President Obama is trying to do right now is get the government to regulate the internet. And you know what happens if you start regulating the internet under Title II of the Telecommunications Act is the universal service fee of 16.1% would be applied to internet service, which means that's a 16.1% tax on your broadband bill. Mm-hmm. People aren't talking a whole lot about that. People are starting to write about that. Americans need to understand exactly what President Obama is going to do under this nice-sounding word, net neutrality. I mean, who could be opposed to a neutral internet? That's not what this is about. This is called over-regulating the internet. It will kill innovation. It'll drive up everybody's internet bills. It's basically a tax on the internet, all disguised. Again, it's a wolf disguised in sheep's clothing. That's how the left passes these things.
All right, Senator, most important question we have for you this morning. Who is the more impressive Wisconsin athlete over the past few weeks? Aaron Rodgers or Melvin Gordon?
Man, that is hard to pick, but I tell you, Aaron Rodgers is just impressive. So
he's a machine.
I'll go with Aaron today.
It's so fun to watch him play, even as Bears fans. And I am he's full of joy on the football field, Aaron Rodgers.
It's more fun, Senator, though, to see him beat the crap out of another team rather than our own.
I'm surprised you even brought it up, but no, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, real class act. We're glad to have him.
And as you are as well, Senator. Thanks a lot for taking time out of your day for us.
Have a great morning.